pedals at the bottom whereby you can quickly and easily change the keys. This one has levers along here where you can raise the strings a semitone. There are double harps where they have 2 sets of strings to achieve that key changing device. There's triple harps with 3 sets of strings. There's South American harps, and of course there's the famous Brian Boru harp. And it's, when I think of the Brian Boru harp, I think of one of my favorite escapades in Ireland that took place in the 80s. I think it was around the time I was doing research for that other project. Sometimes I would go into Dublin, sometimes I would fly into Shannon. And on this particular occasion, I flew into Shannon Airport. I made arrangements to rent a car, and I collected my bags and headed outside of the terminal. And I looked to my left, and just along the sidewalk there was a man with a trench coat on, and he was holding something. And when I looked a bit closer, I could see what he was holding was actually a skull. So I went up to him and I asked him what he had, and he says, "Oh, shout to God, this is a skull of Brian Boru. Brian Boru was the High King of Ireland. He was the grandest High King of Ireland, and I'm selling a skull here for 40 pounds. Well, I had studied a bit of Irish history, and I knew a bit of who Brian Boru was, and I thought, well, surely if that was the skull of Brian Boru, it'd be in a museum or something. And then I got thinking, well, you know, maybe I would buy it and use it as a kind of party piece. So I forked over 40 pence, and I took the skull and put it in a plastic bag and headed off to the rental car and popped it in the back seat, and it bounced around in the back seat for the next 2 or 3 weeks while I was traveling up and down the countryside. And then the day came that I had to fly back to Canada. And of course it was in the 80s, you didn't go through anything like what one is going through now. And I had, you know, my things in my little bag of Brian Boru's skull, etc. And I got home, and over the course of the months I would have friends over for supper, and they were always interested in the various places I'd been and the experiences I had. And so inevitably I would raise this business of having bought Brian Boru's skull, and I'd drag it out of the living room and bring it out to the kitchen. We'd all have a good giggle. Well, it was about 2 years later that I headed back over to Ireland and flew back into Shannon Airport. And same drill, kind of rented the car, had my bags, heading out the door, and I looked to my left-hand side, and here's your man again. He's with this kind of trench coat on, and he's holding something. And I look a little closer, and I see he's actually holding another skull, but this one's smaller than the one I had purchased. And of course I recognized him, but he didn't recognize me. So I went up to him and I said, "Right, so what do you have there?" And he said, "Oh, surely to God, this is a skull of Brian Boru. Brian Boru was the High King of Ireland. He was the grandest High King of Ireland, and I'm selling this skull here for 40 pounds. And I said, "Well, that's interesting, because I passed through here 2 years ago, and you were selling a skull then, and you said that was the skull of Brian Boru. In fact, I forked over 40 pounds then to buy it, and how could this possibly be?" And without missing a beat, he says, "Oh, surely to God, this is Brian Boru when he was a child."